While Western headlines were busy covering Elon Musk's latest promises, Toyota was quietly preparing a very different kind of move. For years, critics called Toyota a dinosaur for sticking with hybrids, while Tesla and BYD raced ahead with electric vehicles. Many believed Toyota had fallen too far behind to compete in the EV market. Then, on June 10th, Toyota changed the conversation. In China, Toyota introduced the new BZ5, a fastback electric crossover with 268 horsepower, up to 630 kilometers of range, and a 15.6-inch digital cockpit. The biggest surprise was the price. Just 129,800 yuan, or roughly $18,000. That's less than half the starting price of a Tesla Model Y. So is Toyota simply desperate to catch up? Or is this a carefully planned strategy designed to challenge the entire EV market? Let's look at what Toyota is actually offering. The BZ5 is 4,780 millimeters long, 1,866 millimeters wide, and 1,510 millimeters tall, with a 2,880 millimeter wheelbase. Those dimensions put it surprisingly close to the Tesla Model Y. This isn't a tiny budget car. It's a proper mid-size crossover with a sleek fastback design, full-width LED lighting, and styling influenced by Toyota's earlier BZ Sport crossover concept. Under the hood, the BZ5 uses a front-mounted electric motor producing 200 kilowatts, or 268 horsepower, and 330 newton-meters of torque. But here's where the story gets interesting. The motor is supplied by FinDreams Power, BYD's own powertrain subsidiary. Toyota also offers two blade battery options. The 65.28 kilowatt-hour battery provides a claimed 550 kilometers of CLTC range, while the larger 73.98 kilowatt-hour battery increases that figure to 630 kilometers. With a 90 kilowatt DC fast charger, the BZ5 can charge from 30 to 80% in around 27 minutes. Inside, Toyota hasn't cut the equipment down to basic levels just to achieve the low price. The car comes with a 15.6-inch 2.5K touchscreen, a fully digital instrument cluster, and 9 standard airbags. Higher trims also offer Toyota Pilot, an advanced driver assistance system developed with Momenta's 5.0 platform. It can use up to 33 sensors and an optional roof-mounted lidar system. That's a technology package you'd normally expect from a much more expensive vehicle. And that's what makes the BZ5 so important. Toyota isn't competing simply by making a cheap EV. It's trying to offer a large, well-equipped electric crossover at a price that puts pressure on much more expensive competitors. The BZ5 is the third model in Toyota's Beyond Zero lineup, following the BZ3 and BZ4X. It also enters one of the most competitive EV markets in the world, facing vehicles such as the Leapmotor C10 and Tesla Model Y. Demand for affordable EVs in China is enormous. Nissan's China joint venture, for example, reportedly received more than 17,000 firm orders for its similarly positioned N7 during its first month on sale. So how can Toyota offer this much car for around $18,000? The answer lies in the way the BZ5 is built. The vehicle is manufactured and sold through FAW Toyota, Toyota's joint venture with China's first automobile works. This gives Toyota a major advantage because the BZ5 is being produced specifically for the Chinese market. Instead of importing an expensive global platform, Toyota can source components locally, negotiate with Chinese suppliers, and take advantage of China's highly developed EV manufacturing ecosystem. And perhaps the most surprising part is that Toyota isn't trying to beat BYD entirely on its own. It's using BYD technology where it makes sense. The electric motor comes from BYD's FinDreams Power, while the blade battery technology also comes from BYD. In other words, Toyota has recognized one of the biggest lessons of the Chinese EV revolution. You don't necessarily have to build every component yourself if you can buy proven technology at a competitive price. That's what makes the $18,000 BZ5 more than just another new electric car. Toyota is combining its global manufacturing experience and brand reputation with China's low-cost EV supply chain. The result is a vehicle that could force competitors to rethink what an affordable electric crossover should cost. And if Toyota can successfully scale this strategy beyond China, the biggest question won't be whether Toyota is finally catching up with the EV race. It will be whether the company has discovered a completely different way to compete in it. The most important local supplier Toyota brought into this strategy was BYD. The BZ5 uses Toyota's ETN GA electric vehicle platform, which gives the car Toyota's familiar engineering approach, including a rigid structure, low center of gravity, stable handling, and a strong focus on safety. But the battery and front electric motor come from BYD's ecosystem, including its Blade battery technology and FinDream's power subsidiary. Think about how significant that is. Toyota didn't have to spend years and billions of dollars developing and scaling lithium iron phosphate battery technology from scratch. BYD had already spent more than a decade refining it and producing it at enormous scale. Toyota simply took a practical approach. Combine BYD's proven battery technology with Toyota's own chassis tuning, ride comfort, engineering expertise, and decades of customer trust. It's an unusual partnership between two companies that dominate very different parts of the automotive industry. But strategically, it makes a lot of sense. You could call it an enemy alliance. Toyota isn't trying to prove that it can build every component itself. It's focusing on what matters most: building competitive vehicles, controlling costs, and gaining market share. And Toyota has something many EV startups don't: enormous financial strength. In its most recent fiscal year, Toyota generated roughly $25.4 billion in net income, compared with around $3.8 billion for Tesla over the comparable period. That's a huge difference. Toyota's hybrid business is a major reason why. While critics treated hybrids as proof that Toyota was falling behind, they have actually become an important source of cash for the company, helping finance its transition into electric vehicles and other technologies. Toyota also has incredible scale. In 2024, the company sold approximately 10.8 million vehicles worldwide, extending its run as the world's best-selling automaker. That volume generates massive cash flow and gives Toyota the ability to experiment with aggressive EV pricing without putting its entire business at risk. A smaller EV startup attempting the same strategy could quickly run out of money and need another investment round. Then there's Toyota's global reach. The company has a huge manufacturing and dealership network spanning more than 170 countries with over 14,000 dealerships. That infrastructure took decades to build. When Toyota is ready to expand its EV lineup globally, it already has factories, dealers, logistics, service centers, and established relationships with customers. New EV companies have to build all of that from scratch. Toyota also has something that can't easily be copied: brand trust. For decades, Toyota has built a reputation for reliability, affordable maintenance, durability, and strong resale values. For customers buying their first EV, those factors can be extremely important. Many people are still concerned about battery degradation, long-term reliability, servicing costs, and resale value. A Toyota badge can make the transition to electric feel much less risky. And then there's the technology Toyota may still have waiting in reserve: solid-state batteries. Toyota has targeted commercialization of solid-state batteries around 2027 to 2028 and has discussed charging times of roughly 10 minutes and driving ranges potentially exceeding 1,200 kilometers. If Toyota can deliver anything close to those targets at scale, the impact could be enormous. It wouldn't simply allow Toyota to catch up with Tesla and BYD. It could potentially give the company a new advantage, especially by reducing two of the biggest complaints about EVs: charging time and range anxiety. Suddenly, Toyota's slow approach starts looking less like weakness and more like patience. While competitors rushed to dominate the EV market, Toyota continued generating cash, expanding its global infrastructure, strengthening its brand, and developing future battery technology. The company wasn't standing still. It was building the foundation needed to compete when the market was ready. That's what makes Toyota different from a young EV startup. A startup may have to bet everything on unproven technology, manufacturing scale, and customer loyalty at the same time. Toyota doesn't. It already has the money, factories, supply network, global reach, and customer trust. Now it's combining those advantages with technology from companies like BYD. And that could make Toyota's EV strategy far more dangerous to its competitors than its critics ever expected. Toyota didn't have to take all the risks at the same time. It could allow BYD to spend years developing and scaling battery technology. It could let Tesla take the enormous risk of convincing consumers around the world that electric cars were actually desirable. Then, Toyota could enter the market with something neither company has in quite the same way: decades of manufacturing experience, a massive global operation, and enough financial strength to absorb short-term losses. That's not necessarily what a company looks like when it has completely missed the future. It can also look like a company that waited, watched the industry develop, and then entered the game once the technology, supply chains, and customer demand were ready. But there is an important catch. Toyota doesn't get a free pass in China's EV market. The price war there has been extremely aggressive, and lower prices mean thinner margins for almost everyone. Toyota itself has warned that its profitability could come under pressure as it fights harder for market share, while several other traditional automakers have already suffered losses in China. An $18,000 electric crossover simply isn't going to generate huge profits, regardless of who makes it. And that's exactly what makes Toyota's strategy so interesting. The company can potentially treat the BZ5 as a strategic entry point, rather than a massive profit generator. The goal isn't necessarily to make a fortune on every car. It could be about establishing a stronger position in China's EV market, gaining production experience, building local supply relationships, and learning how to compete at EV prices. Toyota's profitable hybrid business in other markets gives it the financial breathing room to absorb some of that pressure. Tesla doesn't have the same cushion. Every Model Y and other vehicle Tesla sells has to contribute directly to the company's financial performance. Tesla doesn't have a massive global hybrid business generating billions in revenue while it fights the EV price war. And this is where the bigger EV story begins. The BZ5 demonstrates something the industry has been moving toward for years. Electric vehicles don't have to be expensive luxury products, and affordable EVs don't necessarily have to feel like major compromises. Tesla deserves enormous credit for helping start the modern EV revolution and proving that consumers actually wanted high-performance electric cars. But the next stage of the EV market may be very different. The biggest opportunity isn't necessarily selling $40,000 or $50,000 electric vehicles to wealthy early adopters. It's putting affordable EVs into the hands of ordinary drivers who were never willing or able to spend that much on a car. And ironically, Toyota's conservative, practical, and highly disciplined approach could end up being one of the strategies that makes that possible. Toyota may not have been the company that created the EV revolution, but it could become one of the companies that brings electric vehicles to a much larger portion of the global population. That raises the biggest question of all. Was this Toyota's strategy from the beginning? Did the company deliberately take a slower approach, allowing competitors to develop the market while it built its own financial strength, manufacturing capacity, and technology partnerships? Or did Toyota simply get an unexpected advantage when BYD's battery technology became available at exactly the right moment? That's the part that's still open to debate, and honestly, there are good arguments on both sides. One thing is certain though, Toyota is no longer sitting on the sidelines. The company is combining its manufacturing expertise, global scale, financial strength, and brand reputation with technologies developed by some of the world's most aggressive EV companies. That combination could make the next phase of the automotive industry very interesting. And if you want more deep dives into what's really happening behind the biggest automotive headlines, make sure you stay tuned, because the next major threat to the traditional auto industry may come from a Chinese automaker that many Western buyers have barely heard of. As for Elon Musk, there's an interesting irony here. Tesla helped build the road that Toyota is now driving on. Whether that's the ultimate compliment to Tesla or a warning for the company depends entirely on which side of the EV battle you're watching from.